Hey, Oropesa for Florida, you judge, and thank you for joining me today. I have a very special guest, Helene Daniel, who is running for Group 30 in Hillsborough County. It's a circuit court seat, and it is an open seat. There's currently 3 candidates in it. And thank you so much, Helene, for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me, Haiti. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And so I just wanted to start off in giving you props because I mixed up the date that I originally booked you on. It was actually for today, but I told you the 9th. So this week when you called to confirm, I was pretty embarrassed. I got the dates wrong. And your response to me was so incredibly kind and patient. And I took note of that. So I just wanted to give you props during our segment to just give the viewers and the voters just a little feel of in an actual real life moment how your response was. So congrats on that. I like the demeanor, totally genuine. I've been interacting with you a little bit right before the recording started, and so that's very important. And I want you to start off with talking about demeanor and what that means as it pertains to a character trait in a judge.
Thank you again, Haiti, for this opportunity. And yes, judicial demeanor and temperament is absolutely crucial in choosing a judicial candidate. The reason it's important is, in addition to having a judge who is experienced and knows the law, of course, and is well versed in going to court as an attorney before that person becomes a judge, it's equally important to have a judge have the courtesy and the ability to treat the people who come before the judge with dignity and empathy. Judges have to know that people who come to court before the bench are in some kind of a crisis, and they're looking to the courts to resolve that. And it's very stressful. Many of them miss time from work to be able to come to court, and so it's an extremely difficult situation for most people. And so it's important for the court to look at these people who come before the bench not as case numbers but as people, and to treat them as such. And to be a good judge, the important factors is to, of course, have open-mindedness, be willing to listen to every side of the story, and rule well, rule fairly, rule consistently in a well-balanced way, regardless of where you come from, who you are, if you have a lawyer, if you don't have a lawyer. All these things are absolutely important.
Yeah, and you're right, because a lot of people, most people feel very stressed out, even for minor things like a traffic ticket. People become very stressed out. Have you heard sometimes people feeling like they're not completely heard, because sometimes it does appear that some judges want their dockets to move quickly and move fast. And so I've experienced that. I've seen it. I've heard people complain about, gee, I don't feel like I was fully listened to. Is that something that you've seen or that you've gotten feedback about?
I have, and I've seen it mostly in criminal court early on in my career, and it's unfortunate. I have seen it from time to time in counties, so they're also hugely backlogged, and so it's absolutely important for the judges to hear as many cases and bring people resolution as much as possible, but at the same time, it forces them to go through things very quickly. And so yes, it does happen, unfortunately, where people are feeling that they were not treated, or they didn't have their fair day in court, or they weren't fully heard as they had hoped to be.
Helene, tell us a little bit about you, about your personal history, your career history, so that the viewers can have a little bit more familiarity with you.
So I was born and raised in France. My mom and my sisters and I came to America when I was almost 13, which is when I started to learn how to speak English. I went to high school in West Palm Beach, and then eventually I went to Stetson University undergrad, and then Nova University College of Law. And it was very difficult. I had always wanted to be an attorney when I was a little girl. I just never imagined it was going to be in America. And so one of the reasons I want to be a judge is because in coming to America, I have experienced some amazing opportunities, as well as my mother and my sisters, and it is our way, if you will, to honor and respect this amazing country and my way to give back the best way I know how. And so having been a trial attorney all these years, almost 33 years now, and I've been a mediator for a little over 17 years, this is a way for me to give back to my community, to Hillsborough County, the best way I know how.
Are you married?
I am married, yes. I'm married to Bill Daniel. He's also an attorney in Hillsborough County. And we have 2 amazing kids, all grown up now. One of the reasons I've waited this long to run for judge is because our children were too small, and I really wanted to be there for them, and so I've waited. And another reason is because when I was a younger lawyer, I didn't think I was ready to be a judge or that I knew enough. I do believe strongly that you have to have enough life experience and maturity and a certain amount of humility to be able to be a good judge. And you just were not any of these things when we're young and inexperienced. So I waited a long time, and I hope this is my time.
You're a Stetson grad.
I'm a Stetson grad, and undergrad, yes.
And where did you go to law school?
Nova University.
Okay, down south in South Florida. And I believe that you have some practice experience both in criminal and civil. I think you mentioned that you'd earlier before we began to record that you had worked down in or as a conflict attorney where you would have cases appointed to you from the out of the criminal.
That's right.
Court.
Right. I started out in Miami-Dade and I worked the PD's conflict cases. So what that means, as you know, is if there are multiple defendants on one case, then the judge will assign private attorneys to represent the various defendants because the PD's conflicted out. So I used to do that, and I did some felonies, some misdemeanors, and so it's important to have a little bit of background in criminal work as well. I've done family law, I've done a contested adoption litigation, I've done circuit civil, personal injury, defense work, statewide, representing nursing homes, physicians and nurses throughout the state of Florida.
Let me ask you a question. If you're elected, where would your preference be, and would you be ready to work in any division that you're assigned to?
Great question. I think I'll be ready to work in any division because I have the variety and background, but I love children, and my preference would be juvenile delinquency or juvenile dependency. And the reason I say this is because obviously our children are our future, and oftentimes our kids find themselves in the wrong time, wrong place kind of situation, and I do believe that they should be given a second chance.
Oh, so you have a heart for the youth.
I do.
That's awesome. Okay, so community involvement.
Yes, so I have been a member of Hillsborough Association for Women Lawyers since 1996, and I'm also a past president of Hall. And as such, we have done a lot of organized community service together over the years, including Habitat for Humanity, Paint Your Heart Out. We've done joint events with JIBA, and over the years, we've also undertaken to help various aspects of the community depending on the needs that come up. So one project that I spearheaded when I was an officer, this is going a while back, but we had a crisis in Hillsborough County where we had a lot of homeless women veterans returning from Afghanistan and Iraq, and they were finding themselves without the ability to find housing, and so they reached out to Hall. I was an officer at the time, and together we came up with a plan where the government would find them housing, and we would collect all the items that they needed to move into these empty apartments, and so we collected everything they needed.
That's wonderful. That's really wonderful. Let me give you a moment, a couple of minutes. Let the viewers know where can they find out more information about you.
Yes, so you can look up my background and my experience on my website, Helene Daniel 4, the number 4, judge.com.
And the election is next year, August 2020. That's when the election is. You want to take a couple of moments and just have a couple of last words to the viewers of this segment.
Well, I really want to thank you again, Haiti, for this opportunity. And I hope that all of you listeners and viewers will vote and do your homework and research to make sure you choose a qualified judge when you're voting for judges, and don't skip over that part of the ballot, because it is really a very serious job, and it's very important that you select the right judges for Hillsborough County.